Lord Mayher, page 1007, winding down activities. Baba had even written out the lines and given them to Bailey, which Bailey intended to use as a dedication page of a book he wrote in Gujarati about Baba's life, although the book was never published. Here's what Baba wrote. I am he whom I love, and he whom I love is I. We are two spirits dwelling in one body. If thou seest me, thou seest him. And if thou seest him, thou seest us both. Pendu had been coughing for many days, and on the 7th, Dr. Sat prescribed some medicine for him. Baba's brother Behram, who was the compounder, mistakenly added some hydrochloric acid while mixing the medicine. When Pendu swallowed the mixture, he felt as if his throat were on fire, and his condition became serious. Baba immediately had Adi drive Pendu to Sassoon Hospital in Pune. Nusaran and Dr. Sap accompanied them. The doctors there were prepared to operate on Pendu's throat. When this news was conveyed to Baba, he lost his temper and began flinging things about. His terrible mood lasted for half an hour before he became calm again. The next day, 8 January, a telegram was received that Pendu's operation had been averted. Nothing serious had happened except that the painful burning sensation continued. Behram did not disclose his mistake, but Baba found out about it later. Pendu recovered and returned to Meherabad a week later. Because of Baba's announced walking tour, preparations began on Saturday, 12 January 1929, for sending away most of the boys of both the Meher and Prem ashram. Telegrams were sent to the boys' parents or guardians, informing them the school was closing. Aga Ali's father was the first to arrive the next day to take his son home. Baba had warned, if Ali goes, all go. And this seemed to be happening. All but 4 of the boys, Aga Ali, Ali Akbar, Vasant, and Shapur, departed for their homes later the same day. Even the Persian boys were sent back to Iran with Rao Sahib. These boys were especially heartbroken and clung to Baba's feet and wept at the time of departure. Watching them leave, Baba remarked to Ramju, you can now see that the closing of the ashram has some connection with Aga Ali. On Tuesday, 15 January 1929, Baba left Meherabad with a group of 18. Footnote here. Those traveling with Baba were Ali Akbar, Baidul, Jalbai, Behram, Bauseb, Shagan, Dara, Faram, Ustaji, Karim, Manakar, Masaji, Pesu, Pleader, Rustam, Nayar, Marabanpur, Subnis, and Vishnu. Chanji was sent to Bombay in connection with some publishing work, perhaps the Gujarati booklet defending Baba. Pendu, who was being sent north to Quetta to work with Rusi Irani, departed with Chanji. We have another footnote. Pendu and Chanji stopped in Pune, where they met Babu Saikawala and had Babajan's darshan. Later in Bombay, they contacted Kakabaria, according to Baba's instruction. Dastar also went to Bombay. Meanwhile, Ustaji's brothers, Slamson and Homi, who had been staying at Meherabad, left for Indore, or Indore. And a footnote here says, after Homi and Soshia left the ashram, he married a Muslim woman. Later, he lost his farm, became destitute, and lived like a hermit for a time in a hut outside his hometown. Baba planned to walk to the town of Kolhapur via Pandharpur, But the group first walked to Ahmednagar, where they stayed at Akbar Press for 2 days. Leaving there by truck, they traveled to Dand, arriving on the evening of the 7th of 17 January. They had to spend the night in an open space near the train station as the Dak bungalow was occupied. The next day, they walked 8 miles to the village of Patas, where they stayed in the Dak bungalow. Baba then changed his plans, and instead of walking to Kolhapur, they headed toward Karad, a holy place of pilgrimage in Satara district. At dawn on 19 January, they walked 12 miles to Rawangaon, but along the way, Baba severely twisted his ankle. By the time they reached Rawangaon, Baba's leg was paining him so much that it was decided to rest there in the Dak bungalow. At midnight on Sunday, 20 January, they walked 11 miles to Diksile, where they stayed in a dharamshala. Jalbai named the group the Bat Party, since during the entire journey they continued to do their walking at night. Baba's ankle was not healing, so he decided to cut the walking tour short and return to Ahmednagar. On Tuesday, 24 January, they left Diksal by truck, but the truck broke down along the way, forcing them to travel from Dand by train. They reached Akbar Press the same day. 3 days later, they returned to Meherabad, having been gone for only 12 days. Later the same day, Masaji arrived from Nasik with the women Mandali, who had been called for a short visit with Baba. Baba's mood was tranquil, and he decided to end the tour for a while and stay on at Meherabad, which was quiet and deserted since most of the residents had gone. Meanwhile, Aga Ali had managed to escape from his home in Bombay yet again, and he returned to Meherabad on 17 January, 2 days after Baba's walking tour had started. The Mandali at Meherabad informed his father of his whereabouts, but this time Haji Muhammad had a change of heart and allowed his son to stay. On Monday, 28 January 1929 was observed as Baba Jan's birthday. Baba had the occasion celebrated with 3 hours of singing and dancing by the local villagers. Kalamama, who was the chief officer of Dhulia municipality, had been repeatedly requesting that the master visit his house, and Baba finally agreed to come. Baba was driven there on 5th February in Adi Sr.'s new Chevrolet with Bausaheb, Jalbai, Dake, Shahani, and Vishnu. At noon, they reached Malgaon, where Dake's father-in-law, Bapu Puranik, warmly received them. Baba saw Dake's newborn son, Kamlakar, and then left, reaching Dhulia in the early evening. Kalamama gave Baba and the group a hearty reception, and Baba spent the night at his house. The next day, Adi drove the group to Yeola, but as he had to go to Nasik for some work, Baba and the group boarded a train and arrived in Ahmednagar at midnight. They went on to Meherabad, where Baba began staying in the Jopti at Lower Meherabad. On Friday evening, 15th February 1929, while Baba was sitting with the Mandali discussing various subjects, one of the men mentioned to Baba, "If you would perform a miracle, thousands of people would come to your feet." Rustam was there and said, "Baba, you should raise an incredible tower here in one night, higher and grander than the Qutub Minar in Delhi. If you do it, millions would come to you and accept you as a Sadguru. How will people believe in you without your proving your powers?" Baba dictated this reply: "Have you ever heard of any Sadguru or the Avatar having performed such a feat? The effect of such a miracle would be disastrous. You think millions would approach me and enter the spiritual path? You are right in one way. There would be no limit to their numbers, and they would come to revere me. But so many would come full of worldly desires they wished to have fulfilled. Those who needed money would say, "You have raised such a big minaret in one night. Why don't you give us a few thousand rupees by your powers?" Some would come in the hope of my relieving them of their suffering. Others would come with the desire to be freed of their worldly entanglements. It would reach such an extent that those who really wanted to live a life of renunciation would approach me thinking I should tell them to stop all the austerities and penances, which they must undergo, and give them liberation by my miracle. They wouldn't come to me for myself or out of love for me. They would come out of their love for miracles and would, as a result, achieve nothing. Okay, let's have another reader here. Rosalie, you want to pick up?
Yeah. This whole world is an illusion, and a miracle is an illusion into illusion. Someone then posed the question to Baba as to why he did not destroy this illusion. Baba gave this explanation. The sun gives you light at present. Wait a minute. The sun that gives you light at present will burst after many crores, tens of millions of years. But another sun will take its place. The earth is getting cooler and will eventually turn into a moon. But another planet, just like the present earth, will take its place. What has been in the past will be in the future. The processes of evolution and involution will go on forever. Ignorance and creation go hand in hand. The following day, Baba's parents, Shariarji and Shireen Mai, arrived in advance to attend his birthday celebration. In the evening, they had an hour-long discussion with Baba about family members. Chanji returned the same morning with Kakabaria and a few others. And Rustam and Padre arrived at midnight from Nasik. Meher Baba's 35th birthday was celebrated in Mehrabad on Sunday, 17th February 1929. The official program that day was as follows: 7:30 tea with Rawa, 8 a.m. procession to Arangawan and puja there. 9 a.m. washing of Baba's feet by 200 devotees on the hill, singing by Shankar Bhau and friends. 10 a.m. talk about Baba's life by Angal Pleader. 11 a.m. Baba rocked in a cradle. Noon, lunch on the hill. 2 to 8 p.m. Kawali singing by Piaru Kawal with an interval for tea. 8 to 9 p.m. dinner on the hill. 9:30 p.m. to 2 a.m. play by a local drama troupe and a procession. The procession started from Mehrabad Hill and went along the railway tracks to the Arangawan level crossing, and then back to the Duni with a marching band and dancing by the villagers. 200 to 300 persons joined in. More songs were performed at the Duni. All walked up the hill and departed at 3 o'clock. Hundreds had taken Baba's darshan that day. Visitors included Ghani, Kak Sahib, Babu Saikowala, Sadashiv Patil, and Bailey. The next morning at 9 o'clock in the water tank hall, number 1, West Room, a classical singer named Master Krishna sang to Baba for 4 hours. Baba did not usually enjoy classical singing, but he was so pleased with Krishna's performance that he presented him with an elaborately woven spread. Again at 3:30 in the afternoon, Piyaru Kowal sang, and Baba praised his voice highly also. Later that night, Baba informed the Mandali, from 21st of February, there will be an absolute stop to darshan. And stop means stop. But this new restriction applied only to outsiders. Those unfamiliar to Baba or the Mandali. A notice board to this effect was put up. On Thursday, 21st February 1929, Baba selected 5 men to be writers: Dastur, Chanji, Manakar, Ramju, Rao Sahib, who had recently returned to Meherabad from Persia. A committee was established and came to be known as the Divine Knowledge Publishers, with an office in the Tata lecture hall on the hill. Each of the men was given a separate room in which to write. Baba ordered Dastur to write in English, Ramju in Hindi and Urdu, Rao Sahib in Persian, Chanji in Gujarati, and Manakar in Marathi. 2 o'clock in the afternoon was fixed for the committee to meet with Baba and receive his advice about their respective writing projects. But as it turned out, during this entire period, they had the chance of seeing Baba only twice. Necessary writing materials such as paper, pen, and ink were supplied to them. Only Manakar was given specific instructions about his project. He was first to translate Ramju's manuscript, Sobs and Throbs, into Marathi, and then to write Baba's biography in Marathi. The other writers continued the work in which they were already engaged. Dastur with the magazine MEHER Message, Ramju with Urdu articles for the newspapers, Chanji with Gujarati newspaper articles and pamphlets, and Rao Sahib with the first book to be published in Persian about Meher Baba and the Meher and Prem ashrams, titled Kashful Hakayake, the revelation of truth.
A footnote here says, Rao Sahab's intention in writing the book was to set the record straight, so to speak, as at the time, a lot of false rumors had been spread in Iran and elsewhere about Baba's activities at Meherabad with the children.
Up until 1929, the family quarters property in Arangawan had been rented. Baba had tried to buy it earlier for 1,000 rupees and later for 1,500 rupees, but the landlady refused to sell it. Unexpectedly, on 21st February, the woman on her own came to the master and was willing to settle for only 500 rupees. A legal deed was prepared, and the building became Baba's first property in the village. From 22nd February, Baba reassigned some of the Mandali's duties. Masaji, who had been on night duty, was now put in charge of the cooking department on the hill. Chuggan was transferred from the Prem Ashram to Bwau Sahib's department. Baba himself took on the work of bathing the boys, washing their clothes, and sweeping their quarters. Jaubai, Pleader, and Karim were his helpers, although their only duty consisted in keeping boiling water ready for Baba and handing him the filled buckets when he bathed the boys. Everything else had been on a week's, everything else.
You skipped the line.
Baba,
You skipped the line,
Yeah.
Rosalie. Go back. Everything else.
everything else, Baba insisted on doing himself. That day, the school was reopened. The boys had been on a week's holiday since Baba's birthday. Behram returned from Pune, where he had escorted Memo after the birthday, and he became the superintendent of the Prem Ashram. 2 days later, Meherji returned to Meherabad. He was planning to travel to Persia to work and wished to have Baba's darshan and permission before departing. The proprietor of a firm had offered him a salary of 60 rupees per month, but Baba advised him not to accept the job. After some days, the proprietor approached Meherji with an enhanced offer of 100 rupees. Meherji went back to Meherabad to inform Baba. This time, Baba allowed him to accept the job. Before Meherji departed, Baba remarked, "You may go and I will follow you. My nazar is on you." Meherji left for Persia as a lowly employee, but returned to India 16 years later as a prosperous businessman. At noon in the dining hall on the 24th, Baba spoke admiringly of Sadhu Lake and made these remarks about him. "He is the member of the circle about whom I have been speaking often. He is a real man. There is a world of difference between Merida's star and Sadhu Lake. They are poles apart. Star, however, was instrumental in bringing him here." Baba concluded with this comment, "The real one comes, the unreal goes." During the last week of February 1929, a Meher Ashram boy named Genu Chambar fell ill with pneumonia, and his condition grew serious. Day and night, Baba nursed him and arranged the best treatment for him from Dr. Sate. The boy was even moved to Baba's underground crypt cabin, and Baba would visit him as soon as he came up the hill at 7 or 8 every morning. Genu was in a state of delirium and extremely weak, but his love and devotion were so great that as soon as he saw the master coming, He would go to him and lay his head at Baba's feet. Baba always consoled him tenderly. Sidhu and Sabnis were told to look after Genu, and his family was informed of his critical condition.
All right, let's have another reader, please. Mahu, you want to read now?
Sure. Page 1013 on 1929. Jenu's father came to Meherabad and wanted to take him home. Baba tried to persuade him not to, but he could not listen. Baba sent Pesu to arrange for a taxi and ordered, when the taxi arrives, Jenu should be put in it and no one should do anything more regarding him, end quote. However, when the taxi came, Pesu and Sidhu urged Jenu's father, "Why do you want to take him home? He is being given the best possible treatment here, and Baba himself is attending him." Jenu's relatives agreed and the father eventually consented. Pesu and Sidhu were happy with their efforts and went to inform Baba that Jenu would be staying after all. However, when Baba heard this, instead of being pleased, he became extremely upset. Quote, "Why did you break my order?" he demanded angrily. "I had told you to send Jenu away immediately as soon as the taxi arrived. Why inform me you have done otherwise?" End quote. While Baba was scolding them, Jenu's father appeared and begged Baba's forgiveness, praying to him to let his son stay at Meherabad. Baba replied, quote, "That time has gone now, but if you wish him to be here, keep him here at your own risk. I will no longer be responsible for Jenu. I have served my connection with him. I'm sorry, I have severed my connection with him. He will be given the best treatment and attention, but I will not in the least be responsible." End quote. So Jenu's father accepted responsibility for the decision, and Baba agreed to let the boy remain in Meherabad. But Baba did not enter Jenu's room even once that day. At midnight on the 24th, Jenu died. His father felt great remorse for not listening to Baba, and Sidhu and Pesu also repented for not carrying out the master's instructions literally. There was a greater significance in the boy's death, as Baba later remarked, quote, "Jenu has won, but his father, Sidhu, and Pesu have lost. Jenu is with me. He is freed and has no more births left," end quote. With his last breath, Baba's name was on Jenu's lips. He called out for Baba and his soul merged with God. Although the boy achieved the goal of life when he died, his death provided an invaluable lesson to his father, Sidhu, and Pesu, which they remembered for the rest of their lives. One day, soon after Janu's death, Baba commented about various problems. Due to the demise of Arjun, who died away from me, there were many changes. I stopped writing, began using the alphabet board, and the schools were started at Meherabad. Page 1014. It was all for the best until 1928, when Abdullah Chatobaba had his experience in the Premashram, and the fire of love began speaking through the boys. But when Muhammad Hussein was trashed and beaten in my presence by his close relatives, coupled with the continual nuisance of Agha Ali's father, I had to leave Meherabad temporarily for Toka. There was no other point in going to Toka and spending so much money unnecessarily, but this season was there. And now a new difficulty, Janu's death. When Ali's father listens to reason, another trouble crops up. This is the last chance. If Ali's father again comes, we will try to persuade him to let Ali remains. If not, I will close up the whole shebang. For the time being, we should let things carry on as they are. If this 1 year passes smoothly, I will make Abdullah such that he will carry the whole world in his pocket. If not, then I intend to leave India for Persia. Meanwhile, in order to wipe out the mixed effects of Janu's death, we should proceed to Happy Valley for 2 or 3 days. The moment we return, duties should be divided as follows. I will look after the Premashram. Bosahib is to supervise the Mandali, and Baidul will attend the garden. Our work will progress with double the force if Baidul does his duty in the garden enthusiastically and with honest labor. Accordingly, a short trip to Happy Valley was arranged. The group left Meherabad on foot at 7 in the evening on the 25th, staying overnight at Akbar Press. Early the next morning at 6:45 a.m., they set out on the Aurangabad road for Happy Valley. While walking on the outskirts of Ahmednagar, they were passed by a small platoon of army troops. The boys walked behind Baba, looking like little monks, and the Mandali followed in old assorted outfits. Meanwhile, the soldiers in uniforms marched past them on the road. After going some distance, Baba halted for a short rest. He asked if there was anything to eat, but they had brought nothing. Baba lamented, quote, "This is my luck. I have not eaten anything since yesterday and am very hungry. Despite there being half a dozen orderlies buzzing about me. Just see how they take care of me. To pay attention to what I say and desire is real meditation. What better meditation could there be than that? Page 1015. Even though they had walked about 14 miles, the boys were not tired. Reaching Happy Valley at about 10 o'clock, they had a meal and Baba made the boys rest. The next day, Wednesday, 27th February 1929, Baba took a few boys sightseeing to Manjor Suba Hill and other spots, but he returned within 15 minutes. Meanwhile, the Mandali and the remaining boys had been divided into two groups, the Hindus led by the Haik and the Iranis by Beidul, and each group went to climb a nearby hill. Baba was so upset not to find anyone at the Dak bungalow when he returned that he lost his temper and beat two of the men without any apparent reason. He began cursing those who were not present. Why, when, and with whose permission have they gone? Were they unaware that I would require their presence at any time, particularly here, where I have come for enjoyment to relax and play cards? End quote. Baba was especially annoyed at Beidou. For half an hour, he expressed anxiety about the missing groups. He tried playing a game of cards with Chanji, but seemed uninterested. What are they trying to do? Kill themselves? He kept asking. Idiots. Do they want to die? No one could follow what Baba meant. But when Beidou's and the Haig's groups returned, they reported that 3 of the boys, while hiking on the hill, had narrowly escaped falling into the valley below and being killed. The next morning at 6 o'clock, Baba returned to Meherabad with the boys in a motor trolley. Both Sahib and Gustaji followed in bullock cart, which the group had brought with them to haul their beddings and other necessities. On the way back, the cart overturned. Baba Sahib was saved from harm, though Gustaji received minor injury. Minu Pohawala and Nadir Dastur arrived at Meherabad at noon. Baba discussed some work with Nadir and Bailey on 1st March. Nadir returned to Bombay the next day and Minu on the 4th. Bailey decided to make arrangements to stay in Ahmednagar. On the evening of Saturday, 2nd March 1929, during a discussion with Nusserwan Dastur and Vishnu about the current Indian political situation, Baba stated, "The British are the greatest benefactors in India. They sweep away all its kuchera or dirt, means dirt, such as bad sanskaras. Yet the Indians bawl out and curse them because they do not understand this."
All right, thank you, Mahu. Eugene, would you pick it up here? Well, maybe he stepped away. Mona, would you like to go ahead here?
Yeah. Page number 1016, Winding Down Activities. If India were benefited materially, it would be thrown back spiritually. It would be even worse than England. The reverse effect would be greater. The Prem Ashram school was reopened earlier that day, but during the next 2 months, Baba seemed to be winding down the numerous activities at Mehrabad. It was evident that he no longer wished to remain there, as his work with the school and boys was nearing completion. During March and April, many of the Mandali were sent to different places for work. Pendu was still in Quetta. Janji and Rose Sahib were sent to Bombay to arrange for printing their writings. Baido and Adi Shir were also later sent to Bombay to sell Rose Sahib's Persian book, The Revolution of Truth. As soon as it was printed, Bao Sahib was sent home to Pune. Behram was sent to Pune and Bombay to consult a doctor as he was in poor health. And Padri Edke Masaji, Kai Khushru Masa, and Babu Cyclewala were in Nasik, as were the women Mandali. Padri arrived with Golmai on 4th March, and Dr. Sathe came that day on his weekly visit. Baba's crypt cabin was being rebuilt in stone at this time, and at 3 p.m. on Wednesday, 6 March 1929, the opening ceremony of the new Pakka permanent room was performed. A tea party was held in celebration on the platform outside the tomb, with gramophone records being played and sweets distributed brought by Adi from Ahmednagar. That night, while explaining about what happens to the soul after death, Baba disclosed: suppose a person dies and his greater number of good sanskaras take him to heaven. There, he experiences without a physical body the result of his good sanskaras of his past life. Similarly, if he has a greater number of bad sanskaras, they take him to hell and he experiences those sanskaras without a body. In both cases, the grossness of either good or bad sanskaras is wiped out either in heaven or hell. And still, the feet stain of these sanskaras remains in the mind. These are subtle impressions. Suppose a dish of food overturns in your lap and your clothes become soiled with spots. You immediately remove or throw away the food, but the stains remain. These stains are like impressions. Some scaras remain connected with the environment where a person dies for 2 or 3 days after death. Although they are disconnected from the environment after 2 or 3 days, they are not spent either in hell or heaven for 10 or 12 days after death. Baba was planning to go on a
One more
tour.
sentence on the top.
Sorry, they remain unspent during this period. Baba was planning to go on tour sometime in May, as it as if to compensate for the time he would be away. He spent nearly every day of March and April with the Prem Ashram boys, discoursing to them and giving them the immeasurable benefit of his personal company. On Monday, 18th March 1929, the boy Raja Ram drank deeply from the cup of wine and became God intoxicated, losing consciousness of his surroundings for more than an hour and a half. When he came out of the state, his eyes looked vacant and he refused to eat or speak with anyone. His state continued for 3 days, during which time he was completely unconscious of his body. Dastur questioned Baba about him on 26th, asking if Raja Ram was as spiritually advanced as Chota Baba. Oh no, Baba revealed. He has a long way to go before he reaches Abdullah's sixth plane state. He has experienced an inkling of bliss and has been enjoying it for 3 days. Now, he experiences the gross world as a mirage. When Dastur asked whether Raja Ram would enjoy this bliss permanently, Baba replied, he may or he may not. But this idea that the gross world is a mirage will continue to remain firmly fixed in his mind. It will not matter at all if he loses the bliss. It'll be replaced by a higher sort of bliss. His spiritual progress will now be rapid. On Thursday, 28th March, one of the monthly asked Baba about the existence of matter, questioning, you say there is nothing but God, but you cannot deny that matter exists. Yes, I do, Baba replied. I deny that matter exists. There is nothing but God. But Baba, you cannot prove that matter is nothing. I see my physical body and your body with my own eyes. How can you expect me to believe that matter does not exist? The master explained. To your mind, matter exists, but only so long as your mind is working. When you're in sound sleep, matter does not exist to you. How then you say that matter is real? It stands to reason that it is entirely dependent on the workings of the mind. It's an illusion, nothing more nor less than the work of your mind. Suppose when it is pitch dark and you're walking somewhere, you happen to see an object and jump back, concluding that it's a man whom you take to be a robber. You become frightened, but fortunately see another man walking toward you. Both of you decide to catch the thief. You cautiously approach the object, but no sooner do you begin beating it than you discover to your surprise that it is not a robber but a boulder. It was a mere stone. But until you discover this, to your mind, it was a robber. Pointing to the wooden stool, one of the mandli asked if that wasn't matter. To you, it seems to be matter, but to me, it is Atma, a soul. What you call matter is nothing. Baba then narrated the story from the toddy shop days. When I lived in Pune, one of my friends was named Kai Kushru, ice cream wala. He was an Irani who used to make and sell ice cream. He was in the habit of taking bhang, that's hashish mixed with milk. Oh. And once after drinking some, he went to sell ice cream. On his way there was a small puddle hardly half a foot wide. But to Kai Kushru, that puddle was a lake. He actually ran and jumped 10 feet over it in order to cross it. Now, if you had said to him, "This is not a lake, but a tiny puddle," do you think he would have believed you? He would have called you mad. To him, it was a lake. Similarly, to you, all this before you was matter. But to me, it's nothing. Just as matter does not exist in your sound sleep, so it does not exist in my awake state. What you experience unconsciously in the sound sleep state, we God realized persons experience in the awake state. Our awake state is real, but yours is false. When you realize God, you will see for yourself. The existence of matter is due to the existence of the mind. When the mind disappears, matter also vanishes. Late in the evening on Saturday, 30th March 1929, Baba went to Nasik with three of the men to visit the women Mandali. He returned at 2 a.m. on 3rd April. Meanwhile, at the end of March, Manekar left for Dhulia, where he had found a job. On 1st April, Sadhu Christian Lake left on Baba's instructions to tour India and speak about Baba to whomever he met. Orders similarly to those given to Rustam before he left for England. Lake described his first stop at Madras in a letter to K.G. Dastur. The only service I can render to Baba is to visit houses and have a talk with those to whom I am introduced. I have a feeling that Sri Baba wants me to go to different parts of India to establish a spiritual or inner connection with those parts. Just as he sent Mr. Rustam Kirani to England in the spring of 1928 to establish a connection with the West. Since Baba said he would be with me and I must not worry, I'm gradually getting proofs of such care, and this makes me grow in faith. I can see that through his inner workings, he brings me in touch with those whom he wishes to help and bless. Lake subsequently traveled to Bangalore, Mysore, and other parts of India, sometimes spending 2 weeks at each place. He was gone for 6 months. On Thursday, 11th April, Baba went to see the new hostel of Ahmednagar National High School. He walked to the town at 5 in the morning with a few mandali, stopping first at Akbar Press.
All right. Is it time for another reader?
Yeah, let's
Okay,
see who do you have.
Eugene, why don't you pick it up, please?
Yeah.
After performing, this is page 1019, winding down activities, still 1929. After performing the opening ceremony of the new school building, returned by truck to Mehrabad in the evening.
Sidebar, the management of the school had inserted a full-page appeal for donations in the April 1929 issue of MEHER Message.
During April, Baba continued. He intended to go out on tour. There was the problem of what to do with the boys who remained behind. After being in such close association with Baba, it would have been traumatic for them.
Eugene, I'm sorry, but we're
Yet at
having
the same time, some of the
having
pardon.
a lot of trouble with your audio, Eugene. It's fading in and out.
Oh yeah, and I was having trouble with it, other audio. So try another reader then, Marvin.
Okay. Um, well, okay. We have a few minutes left. Would one of the new people like to read, Parvin or Meher Teja?
Or Chaitali Desai. If you would like to read, please unmute yourself and read.
Jai Mehr Baba.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. Actually, this is my first time actually participating, but something happened. Baba did it. I have to wear glasses, but my glasses broken. I cannot hold it in my eyes, and let me just listen this time, and next time hopefully I fix my glasses and read it.
Sure. Thank you.
I
Oh,
enjoy yes, listening. Thank you so much.
all right. You know what? There's just a minute left anyway, a minute and a little
Okay.
bit. So
Two.
we're right at the top of the page. We could stop here. And we'll pick it up next time. We'll have more time.
So
We can get a couple more readers involved because we had a short session today,
Yeah.
comparative, relatively speaking.
Yeah, so we are stopping on page number
Yeah, let's stop this share.
119.
Let's stop the recording first.
Yeah. 101.